Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special council meeting of the Municipality of Brighton. It's 6:30 p.m. on August 6th. I'll call the meeting to order. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that Council approve the August 6, 2019 special meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Councillor Tadman?
I'm having a hard time understanding why we're having a special council meeting, since I understood that this was going to be on the planning agenda next week. Is there anybody here that could explain to me why we're having this at this time?
The developer requested this meeting and is funding it.
So from now on, any developer that wants to speed things up can call a special meeting anytime?
No, only the mayor or 4 members of council may call a special meeting, but at the request of the developer and in discussion with staff, I called this special council meeting under the auspices that the developer would in fact fund the special council meeting, which is happening. It's not the first time it's happened.
I know that, but it certainly opens the door for everybody to desire the same treatment.
The door has been open for many, many years.
Yes, and it depends on... I won't go into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the agenda motion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. I'll ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. We have one delegation this evening. It is Wendy Brawley regarding the site plan submission overview. Ms. Brawley?
Okay. Circles are great in some situations. Thanks very much for inviting us here, and thanks for the opportunity to make our presentation tonight. So we just wanted to speak a bit about the history of the project. And
sure, I'll just let everyone know, yourself specifically, that delegations do have 10 minutes to make their presentation, okay?
Thank you.
Carry on.
So on the screen right now, what we have is the site plan, which was part of the package that Landmark Planning has provided you as well. Thinking back as how we put the project together and the design, Main Street is on the left side of the screen when we look at it. And what we've tried to do is create a sort of an arcade of trees along both sides coming into, it's sort of the typical farm sorts of buildings that we would have in the Brighton area, and to create an orchard space in the courtyard. The building itself, as a retirement home, I'm going to use this as the pointer. We will have a main entrance coming in. We will have the opportunity for fire truck access, ambulance access, and drop off and pick up if somebody's dropping off a mom or a dad that has a little bit of difficulty walking. It brings them straight to the front door. And what this does is it creates a sort of a porch-like element facing Main Street. What we find in smaller communities is a lot of people will know a whole lot of people coming to visit other people in the home, and it's an opportunity for them to engage with the visitors that are coming and going. The back portion of the property is a secure garden, and from this space we will have really an orchard like might have existed in the past, with patio spaces, garden spaces, outdoor fire spaces, places where people can congregate. The building itself, looking at it as you enter, will be 3 stories. We're using stone elements in the main entrance, and again on some of the areas in the secure garden. We have a combination of patios and balconies for some of the larger suites. So the main entrance will be here. The overhang will come out so that you'll have a covered drop-off, and then we have amenity spaces in the middle. Whenever we design buildings for seniors, we're always trying to consider what is the shape of a building that makes sense for somebody that's living there that might be 86 years of age when they arrive, of what's the shortest corridor lengths and things like that to get to amenities. So within this building, we'll have a combination of 96 independent living and 25 assisted living suites. And so the amenities all tend to be in the central area. This would be as you come closer to the front door, with the stone elements, with the porch, with seating areas on both sides. And then from above, if we were in a drone or if we were a bird, we would be seeing how this drop-off is onto the left, and on the right-hand side is this courtyard area, with all of the amenities being in the middle. From the side view, this would be the view from the east side, as if you were driving away from Brighton, what you would be seeing. So again, it's a combination of brick, siding, sloped roof, balconies, porches type elements. Each of these suites would have what would be called a tea kitchen, with the major main kitchen being centrally located, in order that if somebody wanted to have a cup of tea or have their breakfast in their rooms, they could. This would be a view looking at it from the garden, secure garden area. And so this wall here again would have the stone, and this would be directly opposite the main entrance. So the inside of the building is very much like your own home, where you walk into sort of your living room, dining room, and bedrooms and private spaces are off to the side, so all of the amenities would be on the ground floor for the independent living. On the second floor, these are actually independent living suites, which would have access out onto a rooftop terrace. And on the third floor, we would have assisted living units, which would happen on the west side of the building. So those would be the portions of the legs of the building that would overlook the retail on the left side, or future development to the west. And their amenity spaces are actually joined together at the upper level. And so therefore they could have amenity spaces and shared balcony space. So this would be from the garden as you get closer to the building, and so behind these doors would be the dining rooms, a pub, the amenity sorts of common spaces. We have the main kitchen off to this side, which would be able to provide food service outside and barbecues in the summer. These were the private terraces from the the independent living. And up on the third floor would be the assisted living common amenities that would be overlooking all of the garden space. So when we look at it in plan, this was the drop-off at the front. So in this plan, Main Street is to the top of the page. So the main entrance, you would be coming in. The elevators would be on this side. On the ground floor, all of this is amenity space. And then the service space off to the back, which allows us to get all of our service vehicles as a surface easement over the west property. And this is the garden space, and you can see where the ground floor units would be having patios outside. This is coming the patio space off of the main kitchen, and then the garden area would be at the back. And then we also have some other, they call them bistro type spaces, which would be a cafe for informal dining, could be crafts room, those sorts of things. On the second floor, it's predominantly suites, which would be independent living suites, with some amenities for things like laundry. But this would all be for the independent living. We have 4 stairwells. Each one of the wings would be served by a stair. And these were those 3 private terraces that would be overlooking the garden. And then in this location, we would have a patio or balcony space that would be looking out onto the gardens. The third floor would be assisted living on the left side, amenity space all centrally located, and this is where they would be able to have shared community space, so that there could be programming and activities for the assisted living folks that may or may not be able to come downstairs to the ground floor, depending upon physical problems, cognitive problems, the various things that we might all end up with at some point during our days. In terms of the site plan, do you want to speak to pipes or anything?
Just if there's any questions. Okay. It's going to have Steve Wakey with the Grigallo Group, so we did the site servicing and the grading, and basically it's going to be total municipal services, and water and sanitary sewer, and all the grading's taken care of, and stormwater as well.
And then the landscaping, we've got trees along both sides, the tree of the boulevards, landscaping around the edge of the building, and then you saw the renderings with the landscape garden. And then this is just a formal site plan with dimensions if we need to refer to it if there's any questions. And here we are back, maybe in less than 10 minutes.
Indeed. Thank you, Ms. Brawley. And just before I open the floor to questions for you, could you let us know who you are? Like, we know your name, but in what capacity do you come?
I'm Wendy Brawley. I'm with Open Architecture out of Ottawa. Over the last 25 years, I've spent the vast majority of my career working on seniors projects, whether it be retirement homes, specialty type housing for respite, long-term care, and so the bulk of my existence as an architect has been working on projects that serve seniors. Do an awful lot of stuff working with gerontologists and biophilic design of all of the sorts of things that can actually take a senior's life and provide them with engagement with things, whether it be gardens, whether it be the colors, the textures, the types of building that really make their lives meaningful, even after they've moved into a retirement home or long-term care.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'll open the floor to questions from members of council for clarification on the presentation. Councillor LeBlanc?
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, ma'am. When you were giving your presentation, I didn't hear you mention an elevator.
Okay, there's actually 2 elevators.
Okay.
Do you want to see them on the plan? Or?
No. I just want to know if they were there because you only mentioned steps.
Yeah. Actually, there's 2 elevators for the residents, and then there's a service elevator. The service elevator will bring the food and laundry up and down in order that it's not competing with residents that would be coming down for their meals or program activities.
Okay, that's good. The memo that was put on the file from the town of Brighton, they were mentioning about a grading of 15 to 30%. That should be 8% for firefighting, but to come so they can come from the backside. Are you guys going to address that?
Yes, it's been addressed all in a resubmission that was made on mid last week.
Okay.
So it's with staff.
Through you, Mayor. You mentioned stormwater management. I do not see a stormwater management plan on this. What you've done here, stormwater management pond, and I haven't read a report from the Lower Trent.
Okay, stormwater for this property was handled as part of the phase 2 for Applewood Meadows. So the pond that was built a year ago on the south towards the railway tracks services this property as well as the future commercial beside it. So there's one pond for all of those lands.
Through you, Mayor.
And that was approved by Lower Trent?
Correct.
Thank you. Carry on.
No, I just haven't seen it. I didn't catch it on the last one. Okay, that's good. Since you have brought up Meadowwoods, there's problems with Applewood, the phase 2. While I was there this winter, there's a lot of drainage that comes off this property that flows off and that goes onto the space between the 2 houses on the Apple route, just on the south. And there's all kinds of icing and everything that happens on that road and on those properties in the wintertime that would come off of this property. So have you addressed that also? Because the catch basin on that side is a bit high. So that the water, instead of going through the catch basin to go to the stormwater management pond, goes around. And if you want photos for that, I can get them up on my file. I took them all winter long.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure just exactly where you're talking about, Tom, but basically all the pipes that will service this property are not in the ground yet. Basically, they're going to be built as part of phase 2B that's going to start later this month. And basically, there's going to be some stormwater along basically the south property line of this property and the future commercial to take everything over to Rundle. And then that's where it goes into the pipes and heads down to the stormwater pond.
So when you say it goes down to Rundle, the catch basin at Rundle, you must be going to raise this property quite a bit, because the catch basin at Rundle that you're talking about, that catch basin, is 1.5 feet higher than the road.
Anyway, we'd probably have to go out on site or look at, because...
Well, you guys put it in.
Well, the catch basins on Rondo, basically, there are pipes under those, and there's, for this property is going to be drained through a catch basin that's going to be in the southwest corner of
That's
this
correct.
property.
That's correct.
And it's going to be lower and drain into the pipes that go connect into Rondo.
Right now, it's 1.5 feet higher than Rundle Road, and it's 1.5 feet higher than Highway 2.
Are you talking about a catch basin on this property?
Yes, on this property, yes.
Carry on.
On this property, the drain that he's talking about, drainage.
There are no catch basins on this property now.
Okay then.
If you wish, at another time, we could arrange to meet on site, and then we can be sure where we're talking about.
Correct.
And basically, everything's been submitted with staff. We've got staff comments, and the latest comments we addressed last week, and there was no issues with the stormwater drainage.
So just to be clear, with this property, there are two pieces of property. There's the commercial piece of property, which is immediately east of the
West of this property.
east of Rundle Lane.
Correct.
Yes.
And then immediately east of the commercial property is this property.
Correct.
So I'm just want to make sure that we're all talking apples to apples here.
And the drainage. So the one for the pond, I attended a Lower Trent meeting through you, Mayor. And the pond that you've attached to Phase 2 to, does it flow underneath the railroad tracks, or does it flow towards Butler Creek?
If it flows under the rail, it will eventually go under the railway track.
Yes. Do you have permission from the railroad for the excess flow that's going to go underneath the railroad?
There is no excess flow. The stormwater ponds are designed to basically post-flow to match pre-flow. That's why the pond is there, and that's how the pond
Right. So, through you, Mayor, one more question. So once you're trying to give me confidence on your pond design, we paid $284,000 for a study for this subdivision here, and the pond at the other end can't even meet a 25-year study. And in a conversation with you and I and Councillor Ron Anderson, you said it can only possibly do 35 years when it's supposed to be designed for a 100-year rainstorm study. And that's from words from your mouth. So you want me to have confidence with you that you've designed this correctly? I have an issue here.
What I said, the report from the other consultants said it doesn't handle the 50-year, but their comparison was different, and I have provided documentation to the sizing of the Orchard Gate Pond, that basically it is sized and designed correctly. What the consultants from Vancouver, they took a bigger drainage area that we basically identified in 2006 that we were not addressing at this time, because of the bulk of that drainage area is north of Highway 2, and the plan that was documented with both the town and the Conservation Authority in 2006 was said that will have to be dealt with when and if something happens north of Highway 2. And I believe the consultants from BC, sorry we paid so much to them, whatever, but I'd say they got it wrong.
Well, through you, Mayor. So if you're saying that the consultants and the engineers that are stamped basically gave us a certified document stamp that is wrong, either you as Gowling that represents the subdivision should take them to the engineering association, because they gave this town that we paid $284,000 for, which this council adopted as the stormwater management plan that we were going to do, is wrong.
I think they were missing information, and therefore their assumptions and conclusions were not correct, yes.
But we have not had a document in front of this council telling us that it is wrong. So we have to go by the documentation and stuff we have. We haven't seen you forcefully go after that document, or any other engineer or firm go after that document and prove that that 25-year rain study document is wrong. Other than what I've just heard here first tonight.
So, gentlemen, we're not going to prosecute the Stormwater Master Plan, which was adopted by council here in this meeting. We're just here to look at a site plan and make some decisions around that. I think some of our questions that are being posed may be for staff, which we'll get to when we get to the staff report. if we can hold on to those questions.
No problem.
Because I think it would be good for staff to hopefully be able to answer them or be able to offer answers at some point in the near future. So I'll ask if there are any further questions of clarification from members of council on the presentation we saw. Thank you both very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council receive the delegation from Wendy Brawley. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. You voted in favor?
Yeah,
I had enough to call it carried anyway. It's okay. All right. So tonight's special council meeting is specific to the application for site plan approval, application number SP01-2019, Applewood Meadows Retirement Residence, parts of lots 1, 2, and 3 south of Main Street, registered plan 28, being parts 3, 4, 5, and 6 on plan 39R, 13950 Brighton, 8597685 Canada Incorporated. And Mr. Tai, we have read your report. I would ask if you have anything to add or highlight.
Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of points for hopeful clarification. This property in the adjoining commercial land was the subject of rezoning and official plan amendments that were approved by council in October of 2018. At the time those applications were received, they were circulated to Lower Trent Region Conservation Authority, and the municipality was reminded by Lower Trent that they had already approved the overall stormwater management master plan, inclusive of these properties as well as Phase 2. When we received the site plan package from Hoban Architects, that package was reviewed by Jewel Engineering, peer reviewers for the municipality. Mr. Keane specifically reviewed drainage and grading. He has approved the grading and drainage for this property as well. The application, the application before you this evening is specifically requesting and recommending site plan approval. In this instance, although the municipality did receive a third resubmission, unfortunately it was not received in time to allow a technical review by staff, and frankly my planning report was already on its way to the deputy clerk. However, the recommendation put in the report is intended to allow the process to continue without the need, if it's accepted, without the need to bring this back to council, but rather would permit staff to finalize and polish the site plan agreement, ensuring that the latest plans are reviewed and approved by staff and they're incorporated into the agreement as well.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receives the report regarding site plan approval application number SP01-2019, prepared by the municipal planning consultant, and that council resolves to hereby grant site plan approval under Section 41 of the Planning Act, conditional upon all plans and documentation being finalized in accordance with the comments provided in staff memo of July 30th, 2019. That staff be directed to revise and finalize the site plan agreement to include the final approved plans and construction cost estimate, and that the final agreement be forwarded to the owner for execution, and that council enacts a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the site plan agreement for registration. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tai, just going back, I'm assuming that you probably will review this third draft and you don't see really any issues as to why that would hold up the situation. I'm just thinking if we approve this tonight, I'm just wondering if, as far as if there's going to be any changes, would that affect what we do?
Through the chair, the third submission is intended to respond strictly to technical items on the plans, none of which I believe would affect or alter the decisions of council if one is made this evening.
Just to follow up to that, if in that third submission you found something that was not in keeping with what we're seeing here tonight, would you be bringing it back to council for our consideration?
Yes, we would. We would also be bringing it back to council if in the event, the unlikely event, the dialogue between the engineers, architects, and the municipal staff did not result in a total satisfaction on the part of the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Ty. Councillor Bateman. Councillor Tadman.
My question was the same as Councillor Rowley's about the third draft plan. This is the third time a plan has come forward, and why is there so many changes? Have they not met the conditions before, and now the third time coming, it's going to meet all the recommended things that staff have brought forward, or what's, why three?
Through the chair, it's not uncommon to see 3, possibly 4 resubmissions, whether it be a plan of subdivision or a larger comprehensive site plan like this.
Just to follow, but we don't usually see that at council. That usually just goes through staff, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so this is the first time I've experienced where, yeah. I would like to move to defer this until everything is complete. It doesn't seem like a complete submission to me, but I don't think I'll get a seconder. So unless there is a seconder,
You have a second right here.
So a motion to defer is not debatable. I'll wait for the deputy clerk to write it up. Go ahead. And then I'll read the motion.
Just to be clear, what I've got is that council defer the site plan approval for application number SP01 2019.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council defer the site plan approval for application number SP01 2019. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's defeated. Okay, back to the debate. Councillor Tadman, you just put a motion of deferral on the floor. Are your questions? Do you have any further supplementary questions?
No, I don't have any more questions. I would like to make the statement that I'm not fully convinced that we need to approve this tonight, so I will be voting against the motion that's put before us.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman.
I just had a question to go back to the stormwater pond. I think it was said it was going to be the Applewood Meadow Pond. What's the rating on that, just for clarification, because I've heard different numbers. Is it 25, 50 year, 100 year? What was it the consultant said it was, and what is it actually?
Through the chair, perhaps the developer's engineer might assist council in answering that question.
Mr. Blakey?
Steve Blakey, Greg Galloway. So the Applewood Stormwater Pond is designed for the 100-year flow. The pond that we were talking about a few minutes ago was the Orchard Gate Pond. It's a different pond. The Applewood Pond that this development will go to was not part of the review by the other consultants because it didn't exist at the time.
But it does exist today?
It does, yes.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because we all know, anybody that's been living here for any amount of time, the drainage issues with the flooding issues. I just want to make sure that we don't step into it and approve something that isn't going to hold it.
Makes things worse, I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Councillor LeBlanc, you had a number of questions. Did you want to revisit any of those with staff at this time? I thought maybe.
And I will take through you, Mayor. The thing is, I'm in favor of this project. I think it is a good thing for the town of Brighton to have this type of construction and for these type of seniors and to bring it here. I think it's great that somebody wants to develop it. But the thing is, we have stepped into so many things, and with the engineer from Greer Galloway, this is the third different answer that I've heard on our ponds, so I have a problem. But anyway, if staff is happy with this, I will go with the recommendation of staff. But the thing is, as a councillor, I like to vote on files that are complete. And I'm 100% in favor of this, I'm telling you. I want a complete file to vote on, because if we're going to treat all the other developers we're going to read the whole thing on erosion, corrosion control and stuff. And in this development, it hasn't been there. They haven't shown that. There's sidewalks undone. There's posts missing. There's things that are done. There's flooding. The sidewalks. We were there today. There's ponding all over the place. It hasn't been done. So we want to make sure that they're held there, and at least we're going to vote on a complete document. But give me a complete document, and I will vote on this 100%, because I think it's a great thing for Brighton, and I want the developers to come here and not have a rough time. But give us a complete file. I'm a new councillor. Just give me a complete file, and I'll vote on this. Not a problem. I'm 100% in favor of it. Just put it in front of me. And it wasn't there. And that's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I hear what you're saying. I do have a question for Daryl, if possible. We have a lot of things come before us in council meetings, whether it be developments or, severances and all those sorts of things. When it comes to these sorts of developments, has it happened in the past that we've had a file that's not 100% complete and you've asked us to, vote on it, or council to vote on it, and then knowing that you just have a few technical pieces to put in places? Or is this something completely unusual? We have new councillors, they're wondering. I'm just wondering if you can give us anything more to add to that.
Through the chair, it's not uncommon at all. Whether it be site plans or whether it be plans of subdivision, however, in an effort to maintain momentum in the process, sometimes it's necessary to include items in the reports that, if you will, are more symbolic than anything else. It simply is a way of a means of moving forward, and then allowing staff to ensure that the final documentation is finalized and polished before any signatures from the clerk or the mayor are required.
Follow up?
So at this point, you're confident that, it's just those final few pieces?
Through the chair, if I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have tabled this report this evening.
Thank you.
Councillor Bateman?
Thank you, Mayor. It's kind of a question, concern, statement, and it's with everything, not just this one, but this is what we're here for today. When I drove up through there today and took lots of pictures, and it's not just pertinent to this subdivision, I'm concerned, like when you see the stormwater drains and you can see the flow of sand, and again, not just in this one. I'm in favor of this, like Councillor LeBlanc said, and I'm in favor of any development, and I can drive through a lot of them. We have to make sure that they're all, I don't see silk screening up, I don't see the straw bales up, and there's some storm sewers where the sand pile is right behind it, and I can just imagine after we had that downpour today, how much we put into our storm sewer. So we need to get everybody following the rules, and if the rules aren't there to be followed, we got to create some better rules, because I can drive through many and it's a mess. And I'm 100% in favor of this. Let's just do it right, though, because it's going to cost us down the road.
Mr. Castleman, are you able to speak to whether our public works folks are able to get in there and administer these issues?
I think we have to take a look at the various subdivisions over there and the various phases and recognize that construction is ongoing and many of the phases have not been assumed. And so in the normal course, we would do an inspection prior to assumption and make sure that all the deficiencies have been taken care of, whether that's catch basins or drainage or whatever it might be. As you know, we hold significant securities in place to make sure those contractual obligations are being met. So at a certain time, there will be a request from the developer to assume the subdivision or the phase of the subdivision. At that time, staff will go out and do an inspection.
Councillor Bateman, does that satisfy a portion of your concern?
Yeah, I have 100% confidence in our staff to do that, but I'm more talking as the process going before we assume it. When the construction is underway, like the photos I've taken today I can make available. It's just a matter if you put the stuff up while construction is taking place, because I know that Mr. Castleman's team will do the right thing at the time, but we have to make sure that every developer in town is doing the right thing before it's our time. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I'll share these with everybody. It's just a simple process, and I think it could be corrected everywhere, not just for the one we're talking about. I don't want anybody to think that I'm focusing on this. I've driven around to a lot of them, and I think we really have to make sure that people are following our rules.
So,
I fully understand where council is coming from, and you'll be hearing some comments from me as early as next week.
thank you. Councillor Anderson?
We had this discussion before when we were talking about subdivisions and administering and inspecting and on our part. And I think it's the part of the developer or the builder to be taking care of these items that Councillor Bateman is bringing forward here. But it's our job to stay on top of it and on a regular basis. And I don't want to see, and I like what you said, interfering with the momentum of the process. I think that is our key, what we want to do. I know we all feel that way. And there's some good comments here made tonight of concern. And so my concern is let's keep the process going. Let's get things happening here, but we need to step it up and be communicating with the folks that are making this happen for our community. And you say there's checks and balances and there's cash involved. Well, let's put it to work and make sure that the job's done and done right. And we should be doing it every day, not waiting until there's a flood or freeze up or whatever. So let's go with the momentum and work with these folks that are putting such a large investment into our community.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. And just a quick question: Would this new submission, any changes that were obvious in the new submission, be seen by council, or just not even at a council meeting, just be made available to council?
Yes, of course. The files are available anytime any member of council wishes to see them. If you, in fact, wish to notify me that you'd like me to send you the revised final plans, I can do that electronically.
I think you can accept this as our request that we see the final plans.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rowley.
Exactly my question. My question was going to be concerning Councillor LeBlanc's regard to a complete file, that if we could request from staff that after they reviewed the third draft, if we could get commentary on that, whether it's at a council meeting or just via email, I would be happy with that. Thank you.
I think by email is fine. Thank you. Councillor Tadman.
I just want to remind everybody that for years now we've had so much problem with silt going into the bay, which does a great deal of damage to the bay. And when you get a rain like today, you can go down on Harbor Street and there'll be silt running in there by the Whistling Duck like crazy. So, I mean, it's very important that the developers stay true to what they commit to and put the silt screen in and the hay bales in. And they weren't there today, and that was a big rain pour. So obviously we're going to have a lot of silt going into the bay, which harms the habitat there, so.
And two of the members of the development team are here and hearing this, and I'm sure taking some pretty serious notes. Councillor LeBlanc?
Through you, Mayor. To Daryl or the engineer from Greer Galway, if he wants to answer. So since we're using the document for the Lower Trent for the stormwater management pond, if you can refer me to that stormwater management document where it says that the developer will leave us a pond as per design dredged, and that the stormwater pipes from the drains will be cleaned. Because if you drove there for a while, they were putting all their sand on the road and everything was going into the storm drains. So if you can show me where in the document, in the stormwater management plan, where it says like they have here at Timber Ridge, where before they leave, the contractor has to clean out all the stormwater lines and re-dredge the stormwater management pond as per design. If you can show me that in that phase 2, because when I read it, I didn't see it. So from previous time that we've approved the last phase, because there's a whole bunch of sand and everything going in there. It is atrocious. With no silt fencing, there's no silt membranes put on the stormwater management pond drains. There is a couple, but a lot of them are missing. They're not there. And it's very easy to see. The sand is just caving right in from the photos that Mark took today. So, thank you.
Do you have any comment on that?
Yes, I've made note of the councillor's request. I would only add that prior to municipal assumption, based on my experience, the ponds are always dredged and resized.
Thank you. And we're certainly seeing that as we move forward with current development practices.
Yes.
And that's part of the Stormwater Master Plan that EOR prepared for us that made that suggestion. Part of that plan is to make sure that developers are doing that on a move forward basis. Councillor LeBlanc.
You, Mayor, if it is not there, then I request that it should be added into your updated phase, that the developer cleans all those stormwater things and re-cleans the pond if it's not part of that stormwater management plan, that he adds that in good faith. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of council? Then I'll call the vote. The motion has been read. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And now I'll open the floor to question period. If any members of the public have any questions on the item that was before us today, I'd ask you to come forward. There are none noted. We'll move into bylaws. We have one bylaw moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that Council gives this bylaw its first, second, and third reading, and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to authorize the Mayor and the Clerk to execute an agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton and 8597685 Canada Incorporated regarding site plan approval pertaining to a property located in part of lots 1, 2, and 3 south of Main Street, registered plan 28 being parts 3, 4, 5, and 6 on plan 39R, 123950 in the municipality of Brighton in the county of Northumberland. Any questions? Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that Council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on August 6, 2019. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Blanc, that the August 6, 2019 special council meeting adjourn at 7:14 p.m. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. I'll remind members of council there's another special council meeting that will happen momentarily, but we'll take a 10-minute break.